there. All right. So yeah, so all week, one of the things that had been on my mind, on my heart, was just like the power of our relationships. I had an opportunity this past Tuesday and Wednesday to see some old colleagues and close friends, and every time that I'm around them, there's just this like, my energy just improves, and I started thinking about something I talked about in my book, and for those who haven't read it, and for those who have, this is something that has really been on my heart lately. And as we go into this season of, I think about the holidays coming up, a lot of gatherings that happen, from pumpkin patches to Thanksgiving events to holiday events, other holiday events, and whether Hanukkah or Christmas, New Year's, whatever you have going on, we're going to be around so many people, over these next couple months. And whether it's in business, in our lives, whatever's going on, there's such a power in the people around us, right? And so we can call it, the connection and energy. And we're going to talk about that. You can you can just look at it as like circle of influence, which, if you're in the self-development world, you've heard that term before. And I hope to take it a little bit deeper with you guys today as well. But I was just thinking about, one, just the power of connection and what that does for us as humans. That's been such a huge part of my work lately, really diving into that. And it's something that I think I built, my businesses on, and over the past decade and a half of just building teams, building culture. And I knew it was important. I knew that the energy just felt different. We had people who wanted to be there, people who wanted to be a part of things, people who wanted to grow, people who wanted to impact others, and they were on a mission together. It was an incredible feeling. I knew that when we sat around and started our meetings and started with like, what's hot, or what's positive, or what do you appreciate, what are you grateful for? There, like the vibration in the room just went up, and so people might have gotten there like, okay, time for a meeting. And once we went through that process, like the energy just shifted, and people were like, all right, so what do we got to focus on? What are we working on? And I knew these things. But it wasn't until the last couple of years that I really started diving into a lot of the science behind it, and what happens, and the connection, and really bringing, and the importance of bringing that in. And not just because, like it felt good to me to do that, but really we're seeing this happen now in all companies all across the world, where there's a higher level of consciousness, and businesses and entrepreneurs are understanding that this is something that we need to actually incorporate, into our businesses. This isn't just like a feel good thing or part of our life over here. How do we really create an environment where those that are with us love being there, and I think about in our personal lives, being conscious, and this is what I talk about in my book, is just the givers and takers, right? Like, are we aware in our worlds, what's happening, who these people are in our lives? And I'm really excited. I'll be speaking to a group of, top entrepreneurs from all over here in a couple weeks in California, and up and comers, people who are excited to, potentially be entrepreneurs one day. And I'll be, sharing. And I think about one of the big elements when I thought about, what has really helped me create a life that I love, like whether it's a business that I love, a personal life that I love, a network that I love. And one of the things that's there is that energy, that guarding that energy, which I'll share. But one of the biggest key players in the energy piece for me has always been who's around me, and I realized that, later on, when a good friend of mine had brought it up, he's like, have you really looked at, in your life, who gives you energy and who takes away energy? And I said, I've never, I know, like, I don't like to spend that much time, but I've never actually sat and looked at people and said, okay, who are the givers in my life? Who are the takers in my life, right? If I said, hey, who are the 5 people who give you the most energy in your life? Like, list them out. Who are they? Some of you guys could probably list them right away. Some of you might have to think about it. And I encourage you to do that, by the way, as you're listening to this. Like, who are the 5 people that, 2 things, right? Here's what I'd say. Who are the 5 people that give you the most energy in your life, period? when you're around them, you're just a better person. You feel better. You feel more vibrant. You feel more alive. And then who are the 5 people in your life you actually spend the most time with? And I pose that question for you to really look at those things and compare and say, how much time am I actually spending with those people who give me the most energy? How much time do I spend with them? And it's something simple to look at and to think about. But it's easy for you just to get busy. And sometimes, like our worlds and our business, we spend a lot of time with people that might not necessarily be the ones that give us the energy and put us in a better mood or make us want to be a better person, right? They might bring out the worst in us. I don't know what your situation is, at work maybe. And I've seen people in their business, and they're like, well, I just can't get away from these people. Like, I have to be around them. All right. And hello, Arisela. But I have to be around them. So, what do I do? And so there are some people that you're not going to be able to like eliminate them from your life, because like where you are, the situation you're in, the company that you're with, like you're not able to remove them. But it's important to minimize, like be conscious of that. But also you have to balance it out and making sure to get that time with yourself, get that time with the other people that like really just bring you up, and having that balance of energy. And so if I know like I'm going to be in a place where I'm going to have the energy sucked out of me or things happening, do I have things lined up, whether it's grabbing, tea or coffee with a girlfriend or having a Skype date or something just to catch up and with one of those, top 5 people that I absolutely love being around. And we live in a world that has, we have so many demands, and especially those of you who are business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, parents, you're married. I mean, we have families to take care of, and there are people pulling at us in all different directions, and it can become a very reactive world that we live in, and so we're just going, reacting. And it's so wild, because also in a world where we're probably the most connected we've ever been, we're actually also the most disconnected, which is just nuts, right? How that's happened, but we live on our phones. And I love, oh my gosh, has anyone seen, I saw something posted recently of a photographer who took pictures, all these different pictures of people, and took the cell phones out of their hands and was just showing the world that we're living in right now. And it was so wild to see that, because it's so true, like what's happening or in our world around us, and what that looks like, where individuals are just like, they're just so caught up here. There's someone like right in front of them that we could be connecting with, but yet we're just like, we're on our devices all the time. And by the way, I'm a culprit of this too, where I've had to I can't even have my phone face up. Like if I'm going to dinner or I want to have a chat with someone and I know I want to be present and I want to be engaged and I want to be connected, and I want them to feel that I'm actually there, like not just physically, but like feel that I'm present, I have to flip my phone down. Like I have to put my phone and just turn it over. And I'm like, all right, I can't look at that, because I'm going to constantly be seeing like alerts going off, and it's going to be super distracting, right, for me. And so if I want to nourish, my relationships, if I want to nourish my circle, if I want people who enjoy being around me, or if there's people that I enjoy being around and I want them to keep spending more time, we have to make sure we're present when we're with them. And I remember, some years ago, I was visiting with some friends, and it hit me, and this has happened with family before as well, where I was there and I hadn't seen them in a while, and I was like so excited to see my family. And yet I spent so much time just like looking at my phone, answering things. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? They're like, why are you even here if you're just gonna be on your phone all the time? And I just remember hearing that, and I was like, shit, and it really like hit me, where I was like, damn, like I do spend a lot of time, on there. And like I have to nourish these people that are around me, because I think about the power of beauty. And like, as humans, we were created for connection, so this is something where I've had to really think about it, for, obviously my personal life, right? But not just personal life. We also want to look at it and go, okay, how is this impacting my business? How does this impact my employees? I go in, I'm doing stuff, whatever, but like, how much time am I actually spending with them? And I've realized, recently, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've had such a disconnect with people who've been with me for a long time. And that's not okay, and that, by the way, that's a really easy way for you to lose great people. Like if you want to lose great people, lose your sense of connection with them, spend no time with them, and this goes into different layers, because there's, quality conversations, that you can have with your people. But there's also a level of, there are things that you can do for them, with them, exercises, and just know a little bit more about, why they're working, what they want to do, and this is something that, if, by the way, if you're watching this and you've never gotten it, if you go on my website, kathykristen.com, it'll pop up on your computer. There's a free little ebook. It's 7 steps to live a life you love. It is phenomenal for you to do with your family, with siblings. It's great for you to do with your teams. Like if you lead teams, it's great to do with your employees, companies, businesses, but just to know a little bit about them and like why they're working, what motivates them. And it helps you connect on a deeper level. I read a book years ago called 7 Levels of Intimacy. It was fantastic. And I loved how it talked about it, because we live in a world where we live in cliches, right? And like, that's the first, like, oh, hey, how are you? Oh, like, I mean, how many times do you hear that whenever you're walking around? It's like, do they really care? They're just kind of saying that. And how's the weather? And how's this been? And just very general. And there's different layers that you can peel into, and when you really know somebody's hopes and dreams and goals, maybe even some of their fears, or struggles, those are things normally you don't meet someone. It's like, so what are you struggling with? Like, tell me your deepest fears. Like, that's not normal conversation. But when you can have like a more depth to your connection with them, by knowing extra things about them, it's really incredible, what happens. And so I'm actually reading a fantastic book right now. I'm so loving it. And because I wanted that, I had a mentor of mine that said, like, this is a book that, you should read. Like, a lot of this stuff, again, you've been putting into practice for so many years, but really learning the science. And it's so incredible. And it's called Heart Intelligence. And just the Heart Math Institute has done a lot of work between like the connection between the heart and the brain, and really the heart even having like its own brain, right? And there's so many cool studies, and I'll be sharing this as I go through. I'm about, I don't know, I think I'm close to a third of the way through the book. But I bumped into this one section that was talking about this, and I loved it. And it was talking about how our negative or stressful emotions, like how they throw the nervous system out of sync, right? And when that happens, like our heart, and it said, our heart rhythms became disordered, appeared jagged on a heart rhythm monitor. And I thought about that, and I said, oh my gosh, how many times am I upset or aggravated or frustrated, or I think about something or get anxious and my heart starts beating super fast. And anyone who's close to me knows that. I'm like, okay, my heart's beating super fast. Like like I've got to take some deep breaths, to calm myself down. And there's this connection that's there. And when you have this like additional stress that's happening now physically from you thinking about something, and by the way, this happens when you're around certain people, right? Like there are people that you might, and you're like, oh, and they bring this anxiety or stress that like comes over you. Maybe it's in communication because you guys can't communicate effectively. And so you're just like frustrated or yelling at each other or like talking nasty. Maybe it's just being around them. You're just like, it just brings this stress. And this, this negatively impacts, and it's talking science, the science behind it, and looking at things where that increased stress on the physical system and negatively impacted mental functions. And it talks about how like positive emotions like appreciation, love, care, and compassion, these, when they did studies, they were found to increase order and balance in the nervous system. And so they produce these harmonious waves, like coherent heart rhythms. And so I think it's really neat. And he said, these rhythms, not only do they reduce stress, but they actually enhance people's ability to think more clearly and to self-regulate their emotional responses. And I've been loving going through this. I'm like, this is just, we see it, we feel it, but being aware of like what's happening in our bodies and our minds and our hearts. And again, back to like, if you're with your family or if you're in a business environment and just people are feeling good and they're feeling that connection and they're feeling, the sense of, positive emotions, right? Like love and appreciation, what that does for them and how they're able to just be more present and focused and even perform better, right? If that's your goal with your business and performance. So this is a really big thing. And so it just, is so neat going through and looking at, the heart's intelligence and just how our minds easily fall prey to things like insecurity, anger, fear, blame, and there's other energy draining reactions and behaviors that are around us. And we fall to that. But knowing this and being aware, having the ability to manage our emotions and not suppress our emotions, like or ignore them, pretend they're not there. Like that's not what we're talking about. It's being aware of them, owning them, and being able to transform them, right? And so it's like, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling, stressed. Being able to slow down and go, okay, why am I feeling like this? What is actually causing this right now? Is this worth it? Like, it just depends on what it is. But for me, I ask myself questions and it's like, take deep breaths, and is this something that is worth fighting for? Is this something that's going to matter 5 years from now? Like, these are some of the questions that I was coached on so many years ago that helped me slow down and take some deep breaths when I felt really anxious or really frustrated, and being able to shift that, and shift out of that. And so that was really huge for me to have that and be able to transform those, perceptions. And so if we look at, for so long in our world, and we see it everywhere, there's so much like, there's so many negative emotions that blame and hatred and retribution, and people are just like, oh my gosh, I got to get back at this person, and you won't believe what this person did. And just saying really being able to shift to new perceptions. And for me, I always talk about how hurting people hurt others, right? And so when you see somebody act out in a certain way, or you see these negative traits, it's because they're hurting inside. All right. So knowing that. So what could you do to establish a deeper connection with them and get to know what's happening? All right. And maybe you don't want to, and that's okay. Well, then guard yourself, and don't allow their negative emotions, all right, and their negative energy to bring you down. All right. Because, it doesn't have to do with you. It has to do with them. All right. Anyway, I've been going on tangents with a lot of stuff here. But back to, who are the people that, do you know who around you is bringing you more energy or taking it away, right? Are we being intentional about connecting with people, connecting with individuals? Do we understand that those emotions, like when we have love and connection, we have great relationships around us in our personal lives and at work, that, it's not just we feel better, but literally in our bodies, there's different things going on, and our heart is doing different things. And so physically, there's a shift that's happening when we're happier and when we're more connected, and so just being aware of these things and knowing okay, I can self-regulate this. I don't have to be a culprit to let's go, well, will this happen? Well, you don't understand, because we get it, things happen. But what can you do now to shift it? Is that where you want to stay? Is that where you want your energy? Because the fact is, there's so much more, and we'll talk about of how that affects you, how it affects your energy. It's literally destroying your insides, deciding to hold on to all these feelings, even stress. I hold a lot of stress here, where I'm just all right, I need to get massages, I need to do yoga, I need to de-stress, because I know that when you're holding on to certain emotions, when you have tension in your body, when you have things you can actually create disease in your body. So it's just nuts, because it's all connected and people don't think about it. And if you want to, be at your best self, if you want your business thriving at the highest level, we've got to be aware that these things impact, and that if we're creating an environment where more people are excited to be there, or to be around you or to learn from you or to follow you, you're going to have very different results. All right. And the best culture creators in any companies I've seen, and the best teams that I've been blessed to lead, this has been a huge component, a huge focus for us to make sure that that was created. And in the times that it was lost, because it's not like I know this, like, and I've known this and everything's just perfect. It's a lot of things we know, but we get caught up with other things and things get lost in the weeds. And this is something that we want to make sure we bring back to the front and go, wait a second, this is the most important thing, you know? Like when we build upon people and people feeling good, like that's where things thrive, you know? Because people, when they are feeling good, they step up to a higher level of performance because their energy is lifted and their creativity, again, is lifted. And so they're able to do so much more than if they were like suppressed, angry, frustrated, like just showed up to work. I hate this place. You know, like it's not going to be the same performance. And so there's so many benefits to you as a leader, as a business owner, or as a parent, right? As you're running your family, like how do your kids feel? Like, do they feel like they're a part of things? You know, do they feel good? Do they feel you're curious, that you're interested in them? Do they feel loved? Do they feel connected? Do they feel appreciated? You're going to feel different things in your household when that's there, you know? So just things to think about, things that were on my heart and that I really wanted to share. I'd love to hear thoughts. I'd love to hear questions, whether you post here on Facebook, you catch this on YouTube, and share with anyone that you feel could benefit from it, because I feel like we need more awareness around this, and we want people more connected, and we see more and more people, like there's just so many people like that are suicidal and like you don't even know it. And that sense of connection or, you know, sense of disconnection is a huge factor in that, you know, and them feeling like they're a part of something or like if they don't even exist. And so I encourage you to do something, to reach out to those people that bring you energy, but also to reach out to some people that maybe you're like, I don't really know what's going on with them, but like, I'd like to know, that maybe you lead or you're around, maybe you're in your church or your community, wherever it is, and just reach out to somebody, you know, and see how you can support them. Maybe it's just a listening ear or whatever it is, and how that could help things in your community, and also how that can uplift your spirits, because the fact is, like as humans, there's a certain part of us that's wired to contribute and to give back, you know, and to help others. Like that's part of our natural like DNA. So go out there and do something great for people. So I wish you guys an incredible weekend, or whenever you're watching this, an incredible day. Again, you know, share with others, and I'd love to hear your feedback. And any cool, maybe you've read some cool books or some cool studies on this stuff, like in terms of science behind it. I'm really like, that's something that I'm so excited and interested in right now, is learning the whys behind it scientifically that really connect all the dots on this. So excited to hear from you guys. Thank you guys.